Thomas Alive to Die presents
The Burger Chef Murders. At some point between 11 p.m. and midnight on November 17, 1978, 4 employees of the Burger Chef restaurant at 5725 Crawfordsville Road, Speedway, Indiana disappeared. Assistant manager Jane Freed 20, Daniel Davis 16, Mark Flemmons 16, and Ruth Ellen Shelton 18. A fellow employee who came by at midnight to visit the 4 noticed that the restaurant was empty, the money safe was open and the back door ajar. Police found 2 empty currency bags and an empty roll of adhesive tape next to the open safe. Initially, police did not consider the case to be serious given that management reported the loss of only approximately $581 equivalent to $2,305 in 2020 from the safe and no clear signs of a struggle. It was thought to be a case of petty theft with the assumption that the pilfered cash had been used by the youths to go partying that night. More than $100 in coins was left in the registers. Although the purses and jackets of the missing women had been left at the shop, the petty theft theory initially seemed most likely, and the scene was cleaned by employees early Saturday morning. Buddy Ellwanger, a Speedway police officer who was eventually assigned to the case, admitted, "We screwed it up from the beginning. Not only was the restaurant cleaned and allowed to be reopened, but no photographs were taken beforehand, effectively eliminating all potential evidence at the crime scene." When the 4 did not show on Saturday morning and Freed's Chevy Vega was found partially locked in town, concerns grew. It became evident that they had been abducted while closing the restaurant for the night, with the attack possibly beginning as they removed trash bags out the back door. On Sunday afternoon, hikers found the bodies of the 4 over 20 miles in the rural woods of Johnson County. Both Davis and Shelton had been shot execution-style numerous times with a .38 caliber firearm. Freed had been stabbed twice in the chest. The handle of the knife had broken off and was missing. The blade was later recovered during an autopsy. Flemmons was later determined to have been bludgeoned, possibly with a chain, and died from choking to death on his own blood. All 4 victims were still wearing their Burger Chef uniforms. Money and watches were found on the dead victims, implying that robbery might not have been the sole motive for the murders. The leading theory has been that the 4 victims were kidnapped during a botched robbery, possibly after one of the victims recognized one of the perpetrators. Flemmons was covering for another employee's shift and was not scheduled to work that night, leading investigators to speculate that perhaps he was the one who recognized the killers, since they had not planned on him being there. On the night of the murders, a 16-year-old eyewitness saw 2 suspicious men in a car outside the Burger Chef just before closing. Both men were white and in their 30s. One man had a beard, the other was clean-shaven with light-colored hair. The police had models of the suspects created in clay to assist the investigation. Later that year, a man in a bar in Greenwood bragged that he had been involved in the killings. Police subsequently questioned him, but he passed a polygraph claiming not to have been involved, and officers were unable to bring charges on other grounds. The man provided the names of others who he suggested belonged to a fast food robbery gang and whom investigators suspected may have been involved in the case. While following up on these leads in Franklin, officers spotted a man who bore a strong resemblance to the bearded man composite. Summoned for a lineup, the man shaved his beard the night before he was to appear. A neighbor of his who had not been spotted by the original witness but who had been named by the Greenwood suspect subsequently went to prison for armed robbery. Another associate named by the Greenwood suspect who fit the description of the fair-haired man also subsequently was imprisoned for other armed robberies of fast food restaurants. However, without confessions, despite offers of plea deals to any suspects not directly responsible for the killings, and without direct physical evidence of the involvement of the suspects in the murders, the police were not able to effect an arrest. At the time, there was some speculation that the murders were tied to other crimes that had shocked the town over the preceding months, such as the murder of Julia Cyphers and the Speedway bombings. At the time, the perpetrator of the bombings was still on the loose. However, these cases were subsequently found to be unconnected to the November murders. Investigators continued to follow leads relating to possible suspects as widely as Cincinnati, Ohio, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, and Dallas, Texas. However, they were not able to find any more promising leads or to locate the evidence they believed would have been most useful: the firearm, the handle of the knife, and the chain used in the murders. Nor have any perpetrators made confessions to police, though the son of the bearded suspect has told police that he confided in him that he had been involved prior to his own death. Ken York, one of the original investigators on the case, has noted that the deaths of the Greenwood suspect and the bearded suspect from an apparent suicide and a heart attack respectively came suspiciously close after the release of the armed robber named by the Greenwood suspect. In 1984, Detective Mel Wilsey of the Marion County Sheriff's Department received a call from an inmate at the Pendleton Correctional Facility named Donald Forrester, who was serving a 95-year prison sentence for rape. Forrester claimed to have been involved in the murders and was willing to confess in order to avoid his scheduled transfer to a notoriously violent state prison. At first, the call seemed promising, as Forrester was a career criminal who was living in Speedway when the murders took place and was not incarcerated at the time. Wilsey got a court order to bring Forrester to Marion County, where he confessed to shooting Davis and Shelton. He then led police to the crime scene in the woods, where he accurately described the location and position of the dead bodies when they were found. He also knew about the broken handle of the knife, which was not widely publicized. According to Forrester, Freet's brother James owed money on a drug deal, so he and 3 other associates had gone to the restaurant to threaten her, but when Flem Mons intervened to protect Freet, a fight broke out, during which Flem Mons fell and hit his head on the bumper of a car. Believing Flem Mons was dead or dying, Forrester and his accomplices decided to abduct and kill all the employees to eliminate all the witnesses to their crime. Forrester said he shot Davis and Shelton and gave the names of 3 men he claimed were responsible for killing Flem Mons and Freet. He then led the police to a spot where he claimed he had thrown the gun into a river. However, a thorough search of the river did not find any weapon. Next, Wilsey interviewed Forrester's ex-wife, who said that days after the murders, Forrester had driven with her out to a wooded area where he left her in the car and got out to retrieve several firearm shell casings off the ground. He had then driven back home and flushed the casings down the toilet. Wilsey then got a warrant to search the septic tank of the house, which was now owned by someone else. The search turned up several spent .38 caliber shell casings. However, after someone within the sheriff's office leaked details of Forrester's cooperation, he suddenly recanted his confession and claimed it was coerced. With no further cooperation from Forrester and no direct evidence proving he committed the crime, Forrester was never charged. He died in prison from cancer in 2006 at age 55. Despite thousands of hours of police investigation, as well as Burger Chef offering a reward of $25,000 to anyone who could capture the murderers or provide information about their whereabouts, the attackers were never prosecuted and the case remains officially unsolved. The Indiana State Police continue to hold the case open and have reportedly investigated the use of DNA tracing techniques developed since the initial investigations. During the summer of 2018, the Speedway community, as well as family and friends of the victims, raised money to plant 4 red oak trees in their honor. Each tree is adorned with a plaque with a short biography of one of the victims. The original monetary goal was surpassed within 24 hours. With the extra funds, a marble bench was installed and dedicated to their family and friends. On November 10, 2018, just 1 week before the 40th anniversary, a small dedication ceremony for family and friends was held at the memorial site at Leonard Park in Speedway, Indiana.
We have new images tonight of this, a murder weapon used in the unsolved Burger Chef murders. Indiana State Police hope that someone recognizes this broken knife blade. They say whoever owned it likely carried it in a sheath, and that sheath has never been found. 40 years after 3 young workers were killed at the restaurant, investigators now say they're using new technology to re-examine this old cold case. It is one of the most puzzling crimes in Indianapolis history. It is still unsolved now after 4 decades.
Yeah, the case turned cold years ago, and with each passing year, the possibility of solving it seems more remote. November 17th, 1978. 4 fast food workers disappeared from a restaurant on Crawfordsville Road at closing time. Days later, hikers found their bodies over 20 miles away in a remote part of Johnson County.
Well, this area through here was a lot heavier brush, some larger trees, smaller trees.
Former state police investigator Ken York visited the site with Eyewitness News 15 years ago. He retired before solving the crime, but he believes that somewhere between 2 to 4 people did it.
Because there was just no physical evidence. It would have been purely circumstantial.
At first, police did not process the restaurant as a crime scene because they just thought the empty store was odd. But after the bodies were found, the main theory became that it was a robbery gone bad. Maybe one of the people killed recognized one of the robbers. Former State Police Detective Bill Vann later carried the case for nearly 20 years.
We know that there was a firearm used that was never found. We know there was a knife used that's handle was never found. And we know that one individual was beaten probably with some type of chain that's also out there.
Witnesses saw 2 people near the restaurant the night of the crime, and police had composite sketches made. A man with a beard and another described as a fair-haired man. They even had 3D busts made, but never an arrest. And over the years, the search for the killers has overshadowed those who were killed. So I want to show you their pictures tonight. 20-year-old Jane Freed and teenagers Ruth Ellen Shelton, Daniel Davis, and Mark Flemons. All of them would be between 56 and 60 years old today. So it's been 40 years. A lot of investigators have lived with this story since that time, and reporters too, including our Rich Van Wyck, who was a young reporter on the day that this happened. And at first, it wasn't even apparent it was a crime.
First word we had was the immediate theory was that these young workers grabbed the money, ran, went out for a good time. They picked up what evidence was there, coats, gloves, what have you. The manager was cleaning the place up. Saturday morning when we went out there, we got the first pictures of that Burger Chef restaurant.
And as the manager's cleaning up, he's taking away some valuable evidence.
Police had no idea how much evidence was lost. In fact, when state police took over the investigation, they saw crime scene photographs. They said, there's something wrong here. It turns out they were staged. The original investigative agency had gone back, put the coats and gloves back where they were supposed to be, and took new crime scene photos.
And even despite that, they did have some theories over the years, but never enough to make a case.
They had many witnesses, or rather many suspects, I'm told, but never had enough evidence for an arrest. We went out and they saw those busts that had made up by people who gave accurate descriptions of men. They put together the pictures, they put together busts of those men. They were seen near the restaurant prior to the robbery.
And these 3D busts, very unusual that you would do that in any case.
State police, when they took over the investigation, it certainly appeared were taking extraordinary measures, leaving no stone unturned, trying to come up with the evidence they needed to make arrests. They did some things that we had never seen done before in investigations at that time.
All right. Thank you, Rich, for your perspective.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.